welcome to my channel. Today I'm just going to come back and have another look at this sketch pad. I did a review on it a few weeks ago and I did say at the time I would probably come back and talk to you again about it because once I'd seen how I was going on with it. So it's a mixed media one and it's 250 gram and I got it from Great Art. So I'll put the link below to the paper, to the pad itself, but you might recall when I was first reviewing it I just did this poppy using quite a lot of water and the Inktense blocks, and it did cockle a little bit, so I was a bit dubious as to how good it was going to be and how much I was going to enjoy using it, but actually since then I've done quite a few more things with it with different media and I do actually really like it. It's a really nice bright white for one thing, a lovely smooth finish. And it's, you know, it is a nice paper. So this was another one I did for a workshop. You can see where I perhaps used a little bit too much water here and it's bleached out his jacket there. But this was ink, just one of the pens, some watercolour and some brusho and some wax resist. So there's quite a few different media on there. And again, you can see that it's not just completely flat, but it's not bad. It's good. You know, and the colours are nice and fresh on this nice white of the paper. This one's just a sketch. I have to turn it round for you. Just a couple of people dancing, so that was just a sketch I was practising doing something for. And oh, again I'll have to turn this one around. So again, this one, the ink was applied, it's an acrylic ink and that was applied wet, and then I think we've got Inktense on top of that. So again, I did use quite a bit of water in there, and that one's, you know, you can see that it's not cockled too much and it was good to work on. This one you might have seen, I showed you it on one of my little mini live videos last week. So that was just Payne's Grey watercolour, so not using masses of water on that one. And then this one, again, you probably saw this on one of my little live ones. And this is what I wanted to go through today as well, was just doing some simple skin tones. So for beginners to watercolour, it's a good way to learn is to use wet on dry and gradually build up your tones. It's not as daunting as using your watercolour wet in wet. So with this one, I think this paper does lend itself to these precise techniques where you're just going to be using, you know, some light washes and building them up gradually and allowing them to dry. It's not going to work for the type of work that I do myself quite often, where I use lots and lots of water and work very wet in wet. But for these kind of little sketches, it's a really nice pad and I do like it, and I would get another one. So this girl here, there was I showed you on the little video I did. I'll put the link to that one there if you haven't seen it. It's actually upside down, so don't laugh when you see it, but I'm sort of getting used to how to use my phone in a live way and knowing which way up to put it and everything, so it was too late once I'd done it to do it the other way up, but never mind, I'll get it right next time. But you can see the colours and everything, and I talked through the colours that I used for her. So this palette was left on the side from when I did her. Now if you've got your palette on the side, colours from the previous day and it's all gone dry, just get your little squirty bottle and give it a squirt to so that you're not wasting your paints, you can reuse them. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to reuse the last of these paints to talk again through these skin tones that I used on her. So I've done another little drawing of a girl this morning, just again using the pen. I'll just see which pen I used. It was an extra small, I think, the size of that pen. So a nice fine line, nothing too heavy, because it's a face and you don't want it to be really heavy. So I've taken a photograph of this and I will put that on my website. I do have a little section on my website where I've got one or two drawings that you can download. They're in PDF format, so you can download them onto your computer and then you can either copy them or trace them, print them off, colour them in, whatever you want to do with those. But I do have a section for little bits of worksheets and things like that on my website if you ever want to go and have a look at those. Okay, so I'll just make sure that you're still in shot with that. Just pull it down a little bit and then we'll put some colour on her. Okay, so I'm going to add some extra colour and water to this one that I had left from yesterday, and I just used, for a very basic skin tone, some yellow ochre, plenty of water and a tiny touch of alizarin crimson, so not too much. And of course you can test that on the side until you're happy with the colour that you've got. And of course everybody's skin varies and it might depend how pale or coloured you want them. So let's just, yeah, give it a bit of a test. So you could test down here as well. But of course don't forget with your watercolour that's going to dry a lot lighter than it is, but I still want it a bit lighter than that. I'll put some extra water in. Okay. So I have talked before about skin tones, I've done other videos, and really one thing is to stick to your earth tones, your more natural tones, than using, you know, your sort of cadmiums and things. So the ones down here, your ochres, your siennas, and your umbers are probably the best to stick to for your skin tones really. So now as her eyebrows and her lips and her eyelashes are all going to be darker than this initial wash, we don't need to worry about painting round them. We can just paint over the whole face. And her ear as well, and her earring. So you might have noticed I've got these bulldog clips at the end. That's just to help it, to stop it cockling as we put the water on. But like I say, it's not too bad at all for a pad of a mixed media paper, for being quite heavy and sitting flat. So just go straight over the lips, straight over everything, just avoiding the hair. Okay, and once you've done that, all you need to do is leave it to completely dry. So if you've got another one, you could alternate. That's a good way, so you're not getting impatient waiting for things to dry. Work on two at once, or you could go and have a brew, read the paper while that dries. But make sure it is completely dry before you come back to it. Okay, so once that's dry, what you then need to do is add some more colour to this water, but don't add any more water. So add some more paint pigment to make it a bit thicker, of the same two colours. Like I said before, just a tiny touch of the alizarin. And then you can think about where some shadows might be. So her hair is probably going to be casting a bit of shadow onto her face. Particularly here where it's curled over. And down the side. Let's imagine that the light's coming pretty much from above. Her ear's going to be a bit more in shadow. And before that dries, with a damp brush, not a wet brush, squeeze the excess water out of your brush. Just gently soften the edge of that so it doesn't dry with a very hard line. Some people like it with a straight line actually showing. It's up to you what style that you like, but I just like to soften that edge off a little bit. Okay, so do it a little bit at a time so that that's not got a chance to dry before you do the next bit. Now imagine if your light's coming from above, your brow bones cast a shadow onto here, and actually her brows are going to be darker, so we'll go over those as well. So this is going to be in shade pretty much. And her cheekbones will cast some shadow down here. So imagine where her cheekbones are. Touch your own cheekbones, see where they fall, and then think about where you're going to put that shadow. And again, I'm going to soften those edges off before it dries. And you can move it around, manipulate it a bit as well. Just a tiny touch of shadow in here just to indicate that shape of the top of the lip. A bit under her nose. maybe a touch here. And that you might not want to soften off, that you might just want to leave as it is, because that's indicating those facial features. You're going to have a bit of shadow in here as well. Okay, and then obviously her whole face and her chin is going to be casting a shadow onto her neck. Dried quite quickly, it's a little bit blotchy on that side. I'm just going to add some extra. Okay, and then while that's drying, we'll go on to doing her hair. So actually I should just perhaps have put a little bit more on her ear there. So we'll go for a different colour for her hair today. I think we'll make it a little bit funky. We'll go for some pink hair maybe. So we'll use a really nice bright, which one should we use? A rose. And again, plenty of water because we're going to be covering quite an area. Make plenty of mixture up to begin with, rather than running out halfway through. And I might just speed the video up at this point whilst I do all this hair. Again, you can just go straight over the lines, but do try and paint in the direction that the hair's going as well. Okay, so now that's completely dry, I'm going to go back to the face and build up a bit more of that shadow. So just using exactly the same mix as last time and going to where I think it's going to be the most dark. And actually this time I'm going to leave that hard edge rather than trying to soften it off, because it did go a little bit blotchy in places. Just pull that down a bit. So just under her hair there, under this cheekbone. Again, don't forget that this is going to dry lighter. And it's obviously going to be its darkest under here, where the whole head's casting a shadow on that neck. And I will actually soften some of this off where I've decided to put that extra shadow on the head there. And again, we need to leave that to completely dry. So while that's drying, I'm going to go a bit darker with the hair. So I'm going to actually add a little bit of violet to that original pink and just do alternate strands of hair with a darker colour. And I'm going to put the darkest one next to her face as well. So again, I'll speed this video up whilst I do this. So just carefully going over some of the hair with this darker mix. Okay, so once again that's completely dry, and I'm going to do her eyebrows and her eyelashes. I'm going to do them the similar colour to yesterday, so that was the raw umber mixed with some yellow ochre, because I don't think she would have naturally pink hair. So keeping them quite light. And then for her earring, I'm going to use that straight out of the pan and use some quinacridine gold. And for a lipstick, I think we'll just again use it straight out of the pan and use the alizarin crimson that we used in the skin tones. And then I think we should give her a touch of eyeshadow. So a bit of a more watery mix, not as strong as the lipstick, of some cobalt blue. And actually I'm just going to get a little bit of extra blue and make it a bit stronger in places, because you do blend your eyeshadow in, so I'll make it stronger at the bottom. Make it more obvious that that's makeup and not just a shadow. And then to make it obvious, I think, that her eyes are shut, I'm going to put some Payne's Grey on for her mascara. Actually no, I won't. I'll use a burnt umber for a brown mascara. Go a bit darker down here. A bit more obvious that her eyes are actually shut and that that's makeup and not just spooky looking eyes. And I just think we need to get the shape of that lid back a little bit, so I'll just that's slightly better. Not perfect, but better. Not overly happy with how that blue's granulated on that on her cheeks, on her eyelids there. And I think I might just put her a little bit of blusher on, and I think a blusher can be a pink and alizarin, the same as a lipstick, but obviously more watery. And whilst I've got the pink, I'm going to put a touch on the end of her nose and here, because that tends to be where you catch the sun and where your face is actually a little bit more on the pink side. Okay, so I think what I will do is I'm going to come back to these eyes when they're dry. I'm not just as happy as I was with the previous girl with the colours. I've put a lot more colour on, haven't I? I've not kept it just as simple as I did with this one. And if you look at the colour of her cheekbones where the shadows are, much paler than the shadows on this one. But you can see how when you're building up those colours, just using the same colour on top of each other, it does give you that depth and gives you that shape to a face that wasn't there when it was just a very simple linear drawing with the pen. So I'll just finish off with tidying her up a little bit, but I hope you found that useful, especially when we're talking about the colours and showing how really it is, just with a bit of patience and allowing it to dry in between, how it's quite easy to build up some layers and get some depth of colour in there. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and let me know how you get on with that, and bye for now. I'm just back for a couple of minutes just to say, after I finished videoing then, I really wasn't happy with those eyes and the eyeshadow. You could probably tell that I wasn't happy with those. So I got my pencils out and sort of made it more obvious where the eyeshadow was going and actually put some extra colours in. I wasn't happy with that blue cobalt, the way that it had mixed on the paper. So that's one way you can correct and add to your watercolours, is to just get some. I just have a tin of, these are actually some of the children's old ones, there's some Derwent ones in there and some Crayolas, and I keep them all nice and sharp, and they're quite good sometimes on top of your watercolours, just for putting, you know, sharpening a line up where maybe you've bled over the line, or like I say, correcting things that had gone wrong. So after I'd done the eye shadow, I got a darker one and did actually go and make her eyelashes and her eyebrows much darker, and I think that that's worked a lot better. And then I also had this more skin tony one, where it's actually it calls it golden brown, but it's pretty much like the colour that we were using in the paint. And I've increased the shadows a bit more as well in places, and I think that's worked just to make it a little bit more dramatic with that blue eyeshadow and increasing the shadows. So I think actually I might go now and put some extra colour on her hair, and then I'll take some photographs and put that at the end. But I just wanted to talk to you about that really, rather than just skirt over it and leave the picture as it was at the end and you think, well, what's she done to change that? So just with some pencils. But of course you could correct it with the paint as well, going over with extra layers. Okay then, bye for now.